Hello there and welcome to Engineering and You for this week, and it's another Friday, a special Friday at that because it is Eid al-Fitr celebration, and congratulations to all our Muslim brothers and sisters for this day because it's a time to celebrate. My name is Tunala Nero, and on behalf of myself and the crew and the sponsor of this program, Prince Engineer Yemisi Shilan, I want to say welcome to another interesting edition of Engineering and You. And on this week's edition is going to be very interesting, very exciting, because my guest is already in the house to tell us what some things that is obtainable in the field of engineering. And this program is sponsored by Prince Engineer Yemisi Shilan, FNSC. And the purpose, objective of this program is to encourage young Nigerians, young people, to venture into engineering. Because as I always say on this show, so go the engineer, so goes the society. And we'll take this short break because it's a very interactive program. And when we return, okay, let me just get you the question for the day. The question for today is this: a machine with an efficiency of 60% is used to overcome a load of 60 Newton through the application of a force of 40 Newton. What is the mechanical advantage of that machine? If you know the answer, please calculate it, do it, and call us. In the course of the program, if you get it correctly, we'll let you know. We'll let you get the prize courtesy of our sponsor, Prince Engineer Yemisi Shilan, FNSC. You can put it on any of our social media platforms. If you are correct, you surely get your prize courtesy of our sponsor. We'll take this break now, and when we return, our guest is already in the house. I'll let you know who he is and what topic he'll be discussing with us today.
That is not an engineer. It is a misconception in the society. Engineering this evening, according to I decided to pick this definition because it suits what we want to discuss this evening. Engineering is a profession in which knowledge of the mathematical and natural sciences gained by study, experience, and practice is applied with judgment to develop ways to use economically the materials and forces of nature for the benefit of mankind. What we are talking about here is that engineering is a profession that applies the mathematical postulates. What scientists have developed, we apply to solve a particular problem. So engineering is an applied course, unlike a scientist that develops a postulate. All of us that study, they are science students in our secondary school. There is all these laws that they postulate for us. Newton's law of motion, especially the first law of motion, that every object continues in a state of rest or uniform velocity is acted upon by an external force. Those are the laws, the postulates that scientists put forward. But an engineer picks this law and apply it to develop automobiles. That is what engineering is all about, applying scientific principles to technology to solve problems for the benefit of mankind. Now, that will lead me to say an engineer is different from a scientist. A scientist seeks technical answers to understand natural phenomena, which I do. An engineer studies atomic structure to make smaller and faster microchips. All of these microchips that we use to develop our computers now. That is what an engineer does. An engineer does not look at, okay, what is all of these 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, and all of these things we study in chemistry. How can I apply all of these 1s2 to bring problem to the society? That is what an engineer does. Then in engineering, we have something we call the engineering pyramid. We have an engineering family. Not a pyramid, like I break it down here. You can see the pyramid at the top, it is narrow, and at the base, it is always wider. The first category on this cadre are the engineers, those that have degrees in engineering. In any of these are the HND holders, those that graduate from maybe having higher national diploma. In any of these engineers, you take your job to, I want to wear this thing. All of these bricklayers on the road that you call for your domestic issues. These are artisans. But all of these people work together to ensure that the engineering family is so solid and will provide solutions. Just like you have in the medical profession too. The doctors and the nurses, their responsibilities are different, but they all work together to ensure that they provide healthcare services to patients. So the same thing we have in the engineering family. So not everybody that study engineering, one engineering course or the other, is an engineer. Whichever category you belong, of course you must have a root in engineering, but you have a cadre you belong to. Now there is a difference between an engineer and an engineering technologist, and the difference is that an engineer designs and manufactures machines and systems, while technologists have the technical know-how to identify the equipment necessary to assemble a new CD player. It is an engineer that designs this CD player. We look at, okay, what concept can we introduce? For most of our cars now, we see CD players that are 6 loaders, 8 loaders, single loader. It is an engineer that will conceive this idea, that will have that concept and say, this is what I want to come up with. But it is a technologist that will bring up the tools and the required equipment to make this design to come into being. Now, let's look at the beginning of engineering. I will not spend more time on this because of the limited time I have. Engineering dates back to the earliest 13th-20th century, in the days of the Egypt for most of the engineering students, most of the science students, days of the Egypt when they built the pyramid. And in those ancient days, the Egyptians applied the knowledge of geometry and measurements. These are scientific principles. All of these half base times height, the area of a triangle, length times width, the area of a square, or the area of a rectangle. They apply all of this knowledge of geometry and measurements to accurately construct the pyramid. And also in Mesopotamia, they created wheels and built water canals and temples. In the ancient temple of Greece, this is when they developed pulleys and levers, as seen in the picture that I have on the slide that we are looking at. That is how where engineering dates back to. Let's now look through the ages. In 1200 BC to AD 1, quality of iron rods was improved, swords were mass-produced, siege towers were perfected, Greeks developed manufacturing, concretes were used for hand-cut bridges, roads, and aqueducts in Rome. These are engineering innovations in the earlier days that how engineering evolved. Let's look at 1400 to 1700. The first toilet was invented in England. Galileo constructed a series of telescopes with which he observed the rotation of the sun. Isaac Newton, that great physicist, constructed the first reflecting telescope. And Boyle's law, the ones that all of us know, P1, V1, V1 is equal to P, scientific principles. But the application is what we have here. I want to jump to the 1800 to 1825 AD. Machine automation was first introduced in France. This is where we are going in this study. The first railroad locomotive was designed and manufactured. Chemical symbols were developed, the same symbols used today. And single wire telegram was also developed. Now dated to the 19th century, the past century. The Concorde was first used for supersonic flight between Europe and the US. Columbia's space shuttle was reused for space travel, and the first artificial heart surgery was successfully implanted. These are engineering inventions. Now, in the 1990s till the present date, these are the what we refer to as the jet age. Robots travel on Mars during this period. The channel between England and France was finished. Then GPS was used to predict and report weather conditions, as well as many other consumer applications. And it is good to also note that in this era that we are talking about, automation and robotics started growing. And the future now, the future of engineering, with the deployment of 5G technology, artificial intelligence and machine learning will take the center stage. We are in an era where robotics is gaining, is now gaining center stage. Robotics and automation, where you see robots performing wonders. You see, we are automating all processes now. That is the future of engineering. And with the advent of 5G technology now, presently in Nigeria we have 4G. And in August last year, 5G was launched in Nigeria. MTN launched 5G in Lagos and Abuja. It has not spread over across the states of the Federation presently. But I believe that before this year ends, more states will have this 5G. Now, with the advent of this 5G technology, artificial intelligence and machine learning will take the center stage, and we'll see the beauty of engineering. Now, let's look at this video I want to play. We'll see what robots can do. This is a robot in Texas. They call the name Moxie. And
Moxie is a teammate. She's here to actually relieve some of the pressure and of tasks and hunt and gather that we all have to do it all day. It takes our time away.
Workflows of these units and to understand what do nurses do, how do we do it, and how do we think about Moxie fitting into those workflows.
So you can see these robots is applicable in the healthcare sector and to their loved ones. Robots take the places of human beings. When you want to administer drugs to patients, you see robots administering. Apologies for that. Now I want to talk about the various divisions or disciplines.
I would like to ask you to hold your thoughts there because you have a caller. Stephen, you can go ahead.
Okay, so the various divisions or disciplines of engineering, have any problem at home, people call you, engineer, come and do this for us. People don't want to know that your specialization is not like for instance, if the light in your house just go off, people will call you an engineer, my bulb is not coming up, you come and solve it. A mechanical engineer may not be able to solve an electrical problem. An industrial engineer may not be able to solve a chemical engineer, agricultural engineering. We have the chemical engineering, civil engineering, computer engineering, electrical engineering, industrial electronics engineering, which is a blend of mechanical engineering and electronic engineering. And we have the biomedical engineering, which is also taking center stage in the healthcare sector too. Now, what people know about agricultural engineering is not what to observe. Agricultural engineering has evolved more than the days of using hoes and cutlass to do farming. People can sit at the comfort of their house and even have hectares of land without even getting to their farm, cultivating lands. And aerospace engineering is concerned with engineering applications in the areas of aeronautics, the science of air flight, the astronautics, and that's the science of flight. And agriculture engineer focuses on soil and water, structures and environment, electrical power and processing, food engineering, power and machinery. We can see in the advanced world where people will own hectares of land and they use drones for irrigation purposes. I worked with a colleague of mine 3 years ago to develop an irrigation system that at the comfort of your house, you can know when to irrigate your farm and when not to irrigate it. The system has been automated to the extent that when the moisture content of the soil is discovered to be low, the system sends SMS to the farmer that should I irrigate? And if you think that you need to irrigate, you just send SMS back to that system, yes, and the system irrigates your farm. But in a case where you study the weather condition and you discover that it might likely rain that day, and when you irrigate, the moisture will be too much for your crop. You can study the weather and say, okay, hold on, don't irrigate yet. And the system will not supply water to your farm. But if at the end of the day you discover that rain does not fall, you can now send yes, and the system will start irrigating.
Okay, we have another caller. Hello.
Okay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Hi.
All right, do you want to ask my guest a question? I want to answer our question.
Yes, comment and a question.
All right, go ahead.
Yes. It gets
Hello, I can't hear you. Are you still with us?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, so I want to appreciate for the presenter. The guest that is actually doing in that very particular session about the new IT innovation that are actually coming. He has actually gone into a deep area about engineering, but wanting also to delve into the part of machine learning, and then how algorithms are used to take decisions either in the engineering or in the agriculture as actually highlighted. Let him also.
Are you still there? Okay, he wants to know about machine learning and how algorithm can be used in the field of agriculture.
Well, like I was explaining the project I carried out 3 years ago, machine learning studies, it's about training. What we do as human beings, we feed machine to study how we do some of those things, so that machine can take over in doing some of those things. Like you go to your farm to irrigate, is low, and the crop requires more water, you irrigate. Now all of these things we write codes for it anyway. You train machine to do that. When you discover that the moisture is low, please irrigate. Machine does not have brain. It is the human brain that we use to train all of these machines. So when you train the machine to low and other sensors too. So when the sensor discovers that the moisture in the soil is low for each of the crops you are planting, it sends a message to the Arduino, the microcontroller that we use for that project. Send a message to that microcontroller that you need to irrigate. So when the microcontroller gets that message, because there is a GSM module incorporated into that system, it will send SMS to the user with the preset number we have on that system. It sends SMS to the user that, okay, I want to irrigate. So the user we can jettison that part. But because we don't need the farmer to be around to irrigate. The farmer can be outside of the country or can be far away Abuja when the farm is in Abeokuta. The farmer does not need to be around. And in Abuja, it might not look in engineering, whichever engineering division you want to go to, whether mechanical, electrical, mathematics is required. The same with physics. You must have a credit in physics too. The chemistry. Now, biology depends on which of the engineering discipline you want to study. Like for instance, if you want to study biomedical engineering, it's a new engineering discipline in Nigeria anyway. If you want to study biomedical engineering, you must have a credit in biology. If you want to study chemical engineering, you must have a credit in chemistry. For electrical, you must have mathematics, physics, chemistry, and probably any other 2 science subjects. For agric engineering, you must have agriculture. If you have credit in agriculture, you will be admitted. So these are the basic requirements for studying engineering in any of the Nigerian universities. But for polytechnics, the requirement might come down because I know of, if you want to be admitted through JAMB, you have to have minimum of, I think, 200 in JAMB if you want to study any of these engineering disciplines. But in polytechnics, it goes down to a minimum, like 150 to study engineering, but you must have mathematics. And one thing I want to say is that to study engineering now, it is not as before. You must develop some soft skills. That is what is trending now. You want to go into AI, machine learning, AI, you must develop soft skills, which is very, very important for anybody that wants to study engineering.
All right, soft skill, very important if you really want to study engineering. Mathematics, indispensable. Physics, compulsory. And on this note, I want to say a big thank you to our guest, Engineer Abolaji Ilori. Thank you so much for doing justice to the topic, engineering your future. I hope you are interested now in studying engineering, and I hope you would like to pick up a form in one of the engineering profession. And I want to say a big thank you to you for calling. A big thank you to all our callers, but none of you got my answer right. The answer is 1.5, not 0.9 like Favor said. And for the question for the week, you can still win our prize. For the question for the week says, a particle is in equilibrium under the action of 3 forces. One force is 40 Newton towards the west, and the other is 30 Newton towards the south. What is the third force acting on the body? If you know the answer, please drop it on our social media handles, and we will get the prize to you, courtesy of our sponsor, Prince Engineer MC Shillong, FNSC. Thank you so much for being there. Thank you so much for always being there every week. Until next week, when we come to your viewing pleasure, my name is Tunde Olanero, and I'm saying bye-bye.